Hey everyone, it's Sarah from Squeak Dreams, and in this video we're going to run through my complete cage cleaning routine of this cage, which is home to my 4 guinea pigs. So this is the cage, and for some background I use fleece bedding, which really works well for me. I have these waterproof liners and waterproof fleece pads for hot spots in the cage. So if you want to see the work involved to keep a cage like this clean, or you're interested in fleece bedding or want to know more about how it works and the tips and tricks I have for keeping it clean, then hopefully this video will come in useful. Hi there, what are we doing? Are we ready for a clean cage? Is that why you're sitting there angrily chattering at me? You really don't look very amused, Roxy. So I'm probably going to film this over the course of a few days, and we are starting off with the biggest job of all, which is the changing of the liner. I know I make it sound like some kind of ritual, but it is something that we have to do every 10 days. Sometimes I can push it to once every 2 weeks. And as you'll see throughout the rest of the video, there is lots of smaller cleaning jobs in between, but we're starting off with a big one. The cage is looking fairly messy, not too dirty on first impressions, but when I take a closer look, the liners underneath these pads are definitely in need of changing. I can see some pee stains, there's marks under where the water bottles go, and the liner itself feels heavier than usual, which tells me the absorbent layer in there is kind of full to saturation. So with the litter tray cleaned out, which I'll talk about more a bit later in the video, and the piggies out of the way, I can get on with changing this liner. And the piggies are usually okay with being cooped up in the litter tray whilst I do this. It really doesn't take that long, and they have the fresh hay to distract them. So to get started, I am just taking everything out of the cage, separating out the dirty things, and literally just emptying all of the poops onto the liner. After this, I just scoop up the liners and brush all of that mess off, giving them a good shake to get hair and bits of hay off so they are ready to go in the washing machine. Grabbing the dustpan and brush next, I sweep up all of the poops and hay, leaving the cage completely empty. What are we doing? We're not thinking about getting out yet, are we? And then I disinfect the bottom of the cage with my mix of F10 disinfectant. A tiny amount of F10 will make up several bottles, so if you haven't heard of it yet, I recommend checking it out in one of the Amazon storefront links in the description below. In goes the lovely new cage liner, and I just spread it out and make it nice and neat. And at this point, I love putting in the piggies just because it is so funny and cute to watch them waddle about in the empty cage. And yep, within seconds, there's a poop. Roxy. Now in goes the clean pads, accessories and other beds and things. For some reason, Pedro wanted to try and get underneath this one. Then everyone else tried to follow him. And then Lyra tried to hump him. I love it when the cage is super clean, and so do the piggies. Every time I do a full change, they will spend quite a while just exploring and sniffing everything in the cage. And eventually they will settle down, either just to eat hay or have a snooze in one of the comfy clean beds. Good morning, my little Phoebe blob. Hey guys, so it's the next day after the big cage change, and I thought I would show you the next stage in the cleaning process. This is also the stage that happens most frequently to keep a fleece setup like this clean. And yes, you might have guessed, it is sweeping up the poops. I thought it was a good idea to show you the kind of mess that is created over the course of one night. I think we did the liner change at about 6 o'clock last night, and it is 10 o'clock the next day. As you can can see, there are a fair amount of poops scattered around, but considering that there's 4 guinea pigs, it's not that bad. It means they have been doing most of their mess in the litter tray, which is sort of my strategy. We will be filling that up with fresh hay this morning, by the way. But yeah, the accumulations of poops are also sort of in the hot spots, as I like to call them. We've got a load going on in this hooded bed, and then we've also got quite a lot under the pads where the hammock is and where the wooden arch is. And there won't have actually been that much peeing on the fleece. Most of that will have been done on the pads and in the litter tray. So sweeping up on a morning like this is a relatively easy task. I can just tip the poops from the bed straight into the dustpan, and then I go around and sweep up all of the ones scattered on the fleece as well. You do end up doing this a lot with fleece, so you kind of perfect your sweeping technique. And for me, I am quite picky. I like to try and get as most of the hay off the fleece as well as just the poops. As for my tips for getting as much hair and hay off the fleece when you're sweeping, I actually find that an older sweeping brush works best. I'm not sure why. I think the newer ones catch on the fleece a bit more. And also be relatively light-handed when you're doing the brushing. Don't press down too hard with that brush. And with that done, the cage, to look at least, looks just as clean as it did last night. So all of that cage cleaning means there is quite a lot of washing that we're left with. And here I've got everything that needed washing out of the dirty cage, as well as a pile that sort of I neglected and it built up over the previous week or so. And this will all go in a couple of loads. So the first step for me is to pop everything in 2 pillowcases. I use pillowcases because they work as wash bags. They stop the hay and the hair getting out into your machine and clogging it up and causing all sorts of chaos. And when I'm splitting them up, I pair the liner with the most heavily soiled items. Those will go into a long hot wash, and then the less dirty things, a couple of pads and some bigger beds, they will go in, but they'll just go on a short cycle. Obviously, I have given everything a thorough shaking off before. Sometimes when it's nice outside, what I'll do is just grab everything and then shake off the hay and the hair outside before putting it into the pillowcases. So I'm not sure where my 4th pillowcase is to put the other things in with a heavy load. So we're going to go ahead and put these beds and pads that are in these 2 in the machine, and I'll show you what settings I use. So it is day 3. So they've had a full 36 hours in the cage, and as you can see, it's looking pretty chaotic in there at the moment. We have obviously been sweeping every day. We've been cleaning out the litter tray too, which I'm going to show you in a second. But we have reached that point. Yes, Phoebe, that's a poo on there. It is just a little bit messy and time for a change up. So I am going to clean out the litter tray. I'm also going to swap out the pads and change up the layout a bit. And this is an important part of the routine to make the cage liner last longer, and also to just provide some enrichment and some fun for the piggies, because everything gets changed up and they get to explore the new beds and their new surroundings in there. First up is some more sweeping and just emptying all the poops out from the pads straight into the litter tray, which, if you didn't know, is an under bed storage box. I got mine from B&Q. They have changed the style now, and they're a bit more kind of thicker, bulkier plastic, so they would be harder to cut entrances in. However, that's only B&Q. I haven't shopped around much. I do need to at some point check out some other stores, because I would like to get the piggies a new litter tray. I'm sure some of you have heard me say that already several times, but it's going to happen at some point. And I just realised I didn't clean out the litter tray yesterday, but you know, we're being honest, I'm showing you how much mess builds up, so it's going to be a messy one. Hopefully I can get it in the bag. All I do is I roll up the newspaper and the magazines on the bottom with all the hay and waste that's in there, pop it in a bin bag, and then I give it a full spray down with that same disinfectant, and I give that a good wipe down with kitchen towel. As you can see, the bottom is stained. I would have to properly scrub at it to get that off, but I'm quite happy it's doing no harm with some staining on it like this. And then we're ready to put some more lining materials in, which for me is newspaper, magazines, and then a fresh layer of hay. And just like that, with a clean litter tray, rearranging of the furniture and pads in the cage, it basically looks like new again. So I haven't had to put on a big wash. All I've got is a small pile of pads which will go in with the next wash. And I've tried to be clever about how I rearrange the layout. So in effect, I'm covering up areas that previously didn't have pads on, like this area which is now in front of the litter tray. Doesn't Lyra look so adorable in there? Do you like that? Hey, darling. Hey, sleepy boy. You like your slipper snugs, don't you? Lots of room for a big fluffy piggy. Okay guys, so that is every stage in the process of keeping this cage clean. From the big cage changes, the daily sweeping, the litter box changes, and then every 3 or so days I change up the pads and change around the layout as we've just seen. And that is how I keep on top of cleaning with this fleece lined cage. It might seem a lot of work when you watch it all piled together in a video like this, but really it's not that much for me to do each day when I break it down. I hope this video has given you a bit of an insight behind managing a cage with fleece. If you use fleece already, then maybe you've picked up some new tips and tricks. Let me know if you have, and if you're thinking about switching over to fleece and you still have some questions, then just pop them down in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing a bit of behind the scenes action from the herd as well. So as always, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, drop us a comment below, and if you're new here, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Okay, that's all for now guys. We will see you in the next video. Bye bye.